She either intentionally drove at him or she did it and didn't even realize it. Either way, it's justified to use the force he used.
Do you believe that the second 2 shots were justified?
If the wife was not screaming, drive, 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 I honestly think this woman would still be alive today.
But he could see her turning the wheel the other direction. If I'm walking down the sidewalk and my neighbor starts backing out of their driveway and they're going, what, maybe 1-2 miles an hour, am I justified in just blowing 3 shots through my neighbor's windshield?
She is there to protect Somalians who literally wouldn't piss on her if she was on fire. I am James Paskalides. I am the host of the America Unfiltered show. I have been on the Jubilee mass deportations episode, and today I am arguing that the Minnesota ICE shooting was 100% justified without question.
My name is Anna. I go by Leftist Blondie on all social media platforms. I am here arguing that the Minneapolis ICE shooting of Renee Good was unjustified morally. I think there is arguments also to be made that it's legally unjustified, but I'm more so focused on the moral aspect, as that's my primary interest in a lot of the topics that I do cover. So you can find me anywhere, TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, unfortunately. But sure, glad to be here. Thank you. So I believe that anyone with a reasonable mind watching this video that we've seen the past week or so come out of this shooting in Minneapolis can see that it's very obviously morally unjustified. There is separate arguments that can be made for it being legally unjustified, but my main focus as someone who studies philosophy and politics is the moral side of that versus the legal side. I think that from the moment that you can see the officer circle the car twice and go in front of it, it's very clear that he's not afraid for his life, as a lot of the right is claiming that he is. He intentionally steps in front of the vehicle. He's recording the entire time. And per recent videos that have come out, he, is very clearly in the direct line of sight where he can see her turning her wheel to move out of the way. So I think any claim that he was in fear for his life, that she was going to barrel him over with the vehicle, is just not true. And I also think that from the bullets holes that were in the one that was in the windshield, and then the other 2 that were shot through the driver's side window, you can clearly tell that he was not, at the time of the vehicle moving forward, clearly directly in front of the vehicle. I also think that any DHS policy does not allow for what he did. I also don't see any legal precedent that would cover him in this case for not being charged for murder.
So you said that, let's work backwards. At the end there, you said that there's, you're talking about the tactical policy. That's a tactical safety training policy. It's not an actual law. What it does state is that officers are generally not supposed to be in front of the vehicle, but you also have to put yourself in the actual scenario and understand that tactical guidelines do change as the actual tactical reality changes. And the tactical reality changes when another ICE officer, who is the one on the side of the vehicle, attempts to take the person out of the vehicle, says, stop, remove yourself from the vehicle. They refuse those orders. The person then reaches into the car to try and unlock it, also trying to unlock from the outside. The woman, who I'm pretty sure is the woman's wife who was shot, is out on the other side of the vehicle screaming, drive, drive, drive. The woman behind the vehicle instinctively started to drive. And if you watch the video clearly, you could actually see the tire make 2 full rotations and it not gain traction. Had it gained traction, the officer would have been hit way worse. But luckily it didn't, because they were on ice. Then the person, even if they were attempting to drive to the right, it is very clear from both angles, especially I don't know if it was body cam or cell phone footage. It is very clear from both those angles that the officer was in front of the car. Even the bullet hole in the windshield kind of shows that. And it shows that this person had less than 2 seconds to make this decision if a threat was to their life. And it's very clear that a moving vehicle from a erratic person behind the wheel is a threat to your life.
Apologize. I think calling this woman erratic or a terrorist or anything that Kristi Noem and Donald Trump and JD Vance have put out in the last few days is ridiculous. It's very clear from any footage that we see from, by the way, it's a phone, not a body cam. It is a phone that he has in his hand that he's using to record his wife, who's also circling the car as well. Shows that she was not erratic. She was laughing. She was very calm, despite being yelled at and screamed at by 3 different officers at one point. There is, as far as the traction claims, there is no evidence that just because her back tire was moving, which I actually have yet to have anyone show me.
Not the back tire, it was the front tire that was moving. The video is clear. I could even send it to you after the debate if you would like, so you could review it on your own. And besides that, you're ignoring the fact that the tactical reality does change. The officer had a threat to his life. Threat detection is not about hindsight. It is about what is happening in that moment right then and there. And you're saying, I didn't call her a terrorist.
Hindsight. I'm talking about the specific scenario that's happening right then and there. She's not erratic. She's very calm. The front wheel, I still have yet to see the video, so I'd love to see that. But she very clearly, in the video from the officer's phone, turns her wheel to the other direction.
So from the looks of both angles of both videos, what it looks like is the woman was told by her partner, drive, 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 as the wife saw that the car door was attempted to be opened by an ICE agent. Instead of listening to the orders, she attempted to flee. And whether her intention was to run the officer over or to try and drive away, she still did drive right in the direction of the ICE agent, which gives him 1 to 2 seconds at a maximum, usually about 1 second, to make a decision and determine if that is a lethal threat. And they determined it was, and it was very clear, especially from the aftermath that we're now seeing, that it was a threat. The officer was hit. The officer also did suffer internal bleeding and was in the hospital being treated from this.
As far as I'm aware, there's literally zero evidence that he suffered any injuries. I think somebody who walks up to the scene of the shooting that they just committed and then walks away going, I don't know if I can curse, but effing bitch, after shooting this woman 3 times is not somebody who was in fear for their life. It's not somebody who was injured. Second of all, there's a few claims that keep being made that I think are just being skimmed over. I have yet to see a clip of her wife telling her to drive, drive, drive. But even if that is the case, that's not evidence that she's telling her to drive into the officer. That's a totally separate claim. The other
made that argument. I said that even if the intention wasn't to injure the officer, even if that's not her intention, that's still what happened. She drove directly at the officer. She did.
Right. And fleeing the officer is not a reason to be shot 3 times in the face. Secondly, the vehicle where it was shot in the windshield is not evidence that someone is standing straight in front of a vehicle pointing at it. It's evidence that somebody is reaching around, as you can see in multiple videos, where he tilts his hand into the windshield and shoots through the windshield and then shoots on the side because she was clearly turning away.
That's also a ridiculous claim. You say there's no evidence that the woman screamed drive, drive, drive. That obviously means that you haven't watched all the footage or you're just lying about it, one of the two, because it is clear from every video, especially the cell phone footage from the officer themselves, that the wife was screaming drive, 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 and the woman, who was erratic, drove right into the officer. Whether it was her intention or not, that is exactly what happened. And the officer, with less than 1 second of decision time, determined that that was a threat to his life, that it was a threat to the ICE officers there. And we also have to acknowledge, why was the woman there in the first place? This woman was there to interfere with ICE operations because they are in the area because of the Somalian fraud that is ongoing. She is there to protect Somalians who literally wouldn't piss on her if she was on fire.
Do you think ICE is in Minneapolis for Somalian fraud? Because that's not why ICE is in Minneapolis. ICE is in Minneapolis, one, because the president has a vendetta specifically against politicians in the state of Minneapolis. Second of all, ICE is in there because of claims about illegal immigration in Minneapolis. It's not because of
part of the illegal immigration. The Somalians are a huge part of that. Sure, they're not there for every single Somalian immigrant who's in the state of Minnesota, but it is a massive part of the illegal immigration that is in Minnesota, and it is fraud that's happening. It was interference for her to be sitting there, for her to be honking her horn for an extended period of time, for her to disobey the orders of the officers as well. All of it was interference, and if she had just complied, she would still have her life. And it's
say that we can say that about civil rights leaders. If they would have just complied with, the police officers at the time who were going out rampantly murdering Black people, then, they would have still been alive. But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're not here to discuss whether or not she did everything perfectly. We're here to discuss whether or not he was in fear for his life such that it's justified to shoot her 3 times in the face. Okay, I just actually want to get clear on one thing here, because I certainly don't think any of the shots fired were at all reasonable or justified in any way. But I want to see, do you believe that the second 2 shots were justified? The shots where he was already on the driver's side window?
I believe that you are supposed to discharge your weapon until the threat is down, until the threat is incapacitated, or the threat is no longer a threat to you.
There after he is already on the driver's side window. I don't think it's not letting me.
Yeah, he had already been hit by the car at that point. Again, if you watch the cell phone footage and the other footage as well, it's clear in both, but he was hit by the vehicle. And you also said there's no truth to the fact that he had internal bleeding from this. Google it. Even every liberal news site agrees with it. There was reports from yesterday that he did suffer internal bleeding, was in the hospital being treated for this.
That doesn't answer my question. The question was about whether or not the second 2 shots were fired, if those were justified, because they're out. He's already out of the way. What threat is he neutralizing at that point when he's standing on the driver's side window?
Officer just hit by a car by someone who is refusing orders. It could be a threat to other officers. It was a threat to his own life, as he was already hit by that vehicle and by that driver. It's that
already shot her. He shot her once in the face. If what you're saying is true, that he was directly in front of the vehicle and he shot head on, he already shot her in the face. What threat is he neutralizing?
By your own argument there, you admit that he was in front of the car. She did drive towards him. And then second of all, he neutralized the threat of the woman who was attempting to hurt.
Not true. Stop putting words in my mouth. I didn't say he was in fact doing that. I said, if I granted that for the sake of your argument that he was in front of the car shooting dead on, if he shoots from the driver's side window after he's already shot through the front and he's already shot her in the head, what threat is he neutralizing from the driver's side?
Him in less than a split second to determine what the current state of this woman's health is. He doesn't know for a fact that the woman's fully incapacitated. He doesn't know if he struck.
I shoot someone directly in the face. Do you think they're incapacitated or not? Just simple yes or no, please. I mean, he very clearly shot her through the window.
You really don't know. You obviously have 0 firearms training or 0 tactical training, as that is. If you take any tactical training course, you know you have such a split second time to actually make these decisions, to make the decision to shoot in the first place, and to make the decision for follow-up shots. And follow-up shots are generally encouraged to ensure, like I said, that the suspect is down, that the suspect is no longer a threat.
Follow-up shots would be justified if she was going to go on further and commit further harm to other people. If I am standing, and yes, I do have firearm experience, but that's irrelevant, and I think that was just a cheap dig. If I am a few feet away from somebody and I shoot them directly in the face through their windshield, I'm going to be pretty certain as a reasonable individual that that person is incapacitated. In fact, I'm probably putting myself in further risk if I'm still standing in front of the car, which he was not.
By the car, he rolled off over to the side, and yes, it is, again, having firearms training and having tactical firearms training is 2 very different things and a very important distinction. Tactical firearms training will teach you very different things and how to deal with these specific scenarios, and any tactical firearms training course or instructor will say that this was 100% justified.
I don't give a shit what Joe Schmo and some tactical training shit says. I give a shit what I am watching here, and this man is a few feet away from a woman. If I directly shoot someone in the face, you can ask any tactical training instructor, ask them, hey, if I'm standing directly in front of somebody and I shoot them in the fucking face, and can I be certain that that person is incapacitated and can
accelerating at you at that point? Again, you are not 100% certain of almost anything in that moment, except for the fact that you know that a car is accelerating at you, and it is.
She wasn't accelerating at him when he took the first shot. That's not true. You can look at any footage of this thing. She was not accelerating.
Video of the tire spinning. Watch the video again. Watch the body cam footage. Watch the footage of that other woman. Even if you watch the original video that everybody saw that floated around on the news and everything like that, the video shot from the woman on the sidewalk, you can even hear her screaming, no, 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 as the woman starts accelerating, because she knows exactly what is about to happen. And that happens before the officer pulls out his firearm. The officer pulls out his firearm after the tire spun twice. If that tire did not spin twice in the ice, that officer would have been cleanly ran over, not just partially ran over.
So was the officer able to see the tire from where he was standing directly in front of the vehicle? Because, I mean, from what I've seen from Steven Crowder, you wouldn't be able to see that tire spinning. So he...
Forgetting this isn't a Tesla. He could hear the engine. He could hear the acceleration. This is a shit car. This is not like a Tesla or some electric vehicle where you're not going to hear it under 5 miles.
I didn't say anything about the type of car that it was. My problem is that he couldn't see the wheel accelerating, but he could see her turning the wheel the other direction. That's clear on camera.
What does her turning the wheel prove? She is still driving in his direction, erratic, driving because the wife is screaming, drive, drive, drive. If the wife was not screaming, drive, 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 I honestly think this woman would still be alive today. I think you could actually put more blame on this on the wife than you can even put on the driver.
Where's she being erratic? Because I never once saw that woman be erratic. In fact, I saw her turn her wheel multiple times to the other direction right in front of the officer.
Federal law enforcement who is actively telling you to get out of your car and trying to open your car door is literally erratic. What else would you call that? Psychotic? Erratic? I don't give...
No, I think that's a reasonable U.S. citizen who is trying to move out of the way of law enforcement, who's having her car broken into by thugs, quite frankly. This man circles her car
out of the way. She was intentionally sitting in the way. She was intentionally blocking the middle of the street to stop them from doing their jobs. You can't say she's intentionally trying to get out of the way. She was intentionally...
I don't even think that there's really any clear, concise evidence that shows that she was intentionally blocking the road. If you watch one of the videos, she actually waves the ICE car past her. One of them does pass in front of her. So she's not blocking.
Accelerates at that car. If you watch the video as well, she accelerates at that car and stops at the last second as it passes her. It is extremely clear in the video that she accelerates.
That's completely false. I think anyone can watch the video and see for themselves. She doesn't accelerate at the car. She lets the car peacefully pass by. In fact, there's another car at a moment later blocking her from driving forward on that point.
Later, I'm gonna attach, like, when you say that, I'm then gonna cut to a scene where it shows it actually happening just to prove you're wrong. And I'll DM you the videos after this. If that's your ad, I'll DM it to it. But it is so clear that not only does she intentionally try not let that car pass, she's intentionally blocking the ICE officer, intentionally tries to disrupt their ICE activities, and intentionally disobeys their orders. And then whether it was intentional or not that she drove at them, that is the reality of what happened.
Is disobeying orders equal erratic? I just want to get that really clear, because you're saying she's being erratic, that she's crazed, that he's in fear for his life. I still need evidence that she was erratic. Is disobeying orders erratic? Is that the same thing?
I think trying to flee law enforcement, actively ignoring law enforcement telling you to get out of your car, yes, I do think that is literally erratic. I mean, if it was any other agency, any other type of law enforcement, if it was a police officer, I would be saying the same exact thing, and it would be just as justified.
I think anyone watching this can be very clear and confident that simply disobeying law enforcement orders does not make a person erratic under any standard. I think that disobeying my parents doesn't make me erratic. I think disobeying a law enforcement or a judge order doesn't necessarily make me erratic. Would it be the right decision? Not necessarily in every case, but that doesn't mean someone is erratic. That's a very idiosyncratic usage of the term erratic.
that someone is erratic when they are literally accelerating towards an ICE officer, when they are literally disobeying orders from a law enforcement officer. And for you to say like, oh, if my parents did that, that's not the same comparison. It's nowhere close. And that's such a bullshit argument.
The argument was not, if I disobey my parents, that means I'm not erratic. That was not the argument. The argument was just that simply disobeying orders from someone, including law enforcement, does not necessarily mean that you are acting erratic. That means that you have an idiosyncratic usage of the word erratic. And I think anybody watching this clip can see that she was
way too much on the word erratic. Whether I said the word erratic or not, it's irrelevant to the scenario. Whether she intentionally tried to run the officer over or she just did it.
By telling that you won't let me finish my sentences, and I've only started doing that to you as, you know, retaliation, which I think is quite funny. But you did use the word erratic, and your word usage there was intended to imply that he should have been scared for his life because she was being erratic. So that is relevant to this.
For his life because a woman was driving at her, no matter what her intentions were or if she was erratic. She either intentionally drove at him or she did it and didn't even realize it. Either way, it's justified to use the force he used.
Okay, so if I'm walking down the sidewalk and my neighbor starts backing out of their driveway and they're going maybe 1-2 miles an hour, am I justified in just blowing 3 shots through my neighbor's windshield? Because I'm scared for my life, even though I put myself in that situation.
He didn't put himself in that situation. She put him in that situation by refusing to obey commands. And if a car is coming at you, in most states,
he walked in front of the vehicle. She never put him in front of the vehicle. In fact, she waved other cars around her. So he walked in front of the vehicle. She didn't put him there.
Sat there interfering with ICE operations. She didn't have to be doing that. She could have been at home taking care of the home. She could have been at.
That was such a beautiful time for it to meet you. Well, I think regardless of whether she could have or could have not been doing XYZ is irrelevant. I think that she wasn't acting erratically and he was not in fear for his life.